Today's story isn't just about a rescue, it's about a forgotten soul, a sliver of light, and the quiet power of compassion. It's about a German shepherd puppy, unnamed, unwanted, unseen, who spent the first month of his life in total isolation until one man opened a door and with it gave him a future. What happened next will stay with you long after the screen fades to black. This is Shadow's story, a journey from fear to freedom, from silence to love. Scene 1, the beginning in darkness. He had no name, no toy, no voice ever called to him with love. From just 1 month old, the German shepherd puppy was locked away, alone, hidden from the world inside a cold, forgotten shed. The door hadn't been opened in over 2 weeks. Behind it, the puppy lay curled in the farthest corner, pressed against the cracked concrete, as if trying to disappear. The only sound was the slow drip of a pipe above him. The only comfort, a mouldy towel that smelled of mildew and abandonment. He didn't bark, he didn't cry, he didn't even know how. Every footstep outside made his ears perk, but rarely did they stop. When they did, it meant a metal bowl of dry food being shoved under the door and scraping across the floor. No hand ever reached in to pet him. No eyes ever looked at him with warmth. The people who owned the place hadn't meant to be cruel, just careless. They'd bred a litter they couldn't afford and placed the weakest pup in the back, just until someone comes. But no one ever came. In that shed, the puppy wasn't learning to live. He was learning to survive. Each vibration through the walls made his heart pound. Each rustle outside made his body stiffen. And in the pitch blackness, without light, without love, his instincts began to turn inward. The world wasn't something to explore, it was something to fear. And day by day, in that silence, his tiny soul began to wither. Scene 2, the first light, a stranger at the door. It happened on a morning that felt different. The usual stomp of heavy boots was replaced by softer, slower steps. Not rushed, not indifferent, curious. The German shepherd puppy, still curled in his corner, barely breathed. Then, a sound he hadn't heard in weeks, the scrape of metal, the groan of rusted hinges. The door creaked open. For the first time in over a month, light spilled into the room. It cut across the floor like a blade, golden and warm, yet terrifying. The puppy shrank back, trembling violently. His eyes, wide and unadjusted, blinked against the brightness. He didn't understand what it was. The darkness had become his only world. And now, it was shattering. Then he growled, a small, uncertain sound, more instinct than threat. It was all he had, his only defense. In the doorway stood a man, calm and steady, weathered hands, gentle eyes. His name was Daniel, an animal control officer who had followed an anonymous tip. He had prepared himself for a routine check, but not for this. A puppy alone, bones visible, legs shaking, trapped in silence. Daniel didn't rush. He knelt, slow and quiet, just close enough for the puppy to see him clearly. "Hey, buddy," he whispered, voice barely louder than the breeze. "It's okay. I see you." And for the first time, someone did. The puppy didn't move, but his ears twitched, his nose lifted, sensing something new, something that didn't reek of fear. Minutes passed, like hours. Daniel said nothing more. He simply waited, hand extended, palm up, resting just above the floor. Then something shifted, a tiny step, hesitant, another. And finally, a soft touch. The puppy nudged Daniel's hand with his nose, barely a tap, but enough to break the silence. Daniel's eyes welled with tears. "You've been so brave," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. "You didn't give up." In that moment, under the glow of morning light, the healing began, not with words, but with trust. Scene 3. The first days of safety. The ride to Daniel's farmhouse was silent. No barking, no whimpering, just two souls, one learning to hope, the other learning to trust. Daniel lived alone on a few quiet acres outside Knoxville, Tennessee. His house was old but full of warmth. A porch that creaked in the wind, fields that stretched into the horizon, and a soft dog bed already waiting near the fireplace. He hadn't planned this rescue, but something inside him had shifted the moment those frightened eyes met his. Inside the house, Daniel gently placed the crate in the living room and opened its door. The puppy didn't come out, not at first. He stayed inside, eyes flicking around the unfamiliar space, muscles tight, body frozen. But eventually one paw stepped onto the rug, then another. He flinched, not in pain, but in surprise. The soft fabric beneath his feet was unlike anything he'd known. No concrete, no cold. It was kind. Daniel sat cross-legged nearby, holding out a piece of chicken in his palm. The puppy inched closer, drawn by scent, still unsure, but he took it. And once again, just like in the shed, he sat beside Daniel, not because he was told, but because in some quiet way he wanted to. That night, Daniel didn't give him a name. Not yet. Names, he believed, were earned, not rushed, so he simply called him Buddy. At 2 a.m., Daniel stirred awake to a quiet wait beside his bed. Buddy had wandered from the living room, curled up against the place where Daniel's arm hung over the edge. No barking, no scratching, just breathing, soft, steady, present. For the first time in his life, the little German shepherd wasn't alone in the dark. But Daniel knew this was only the beginning. Healing would take more than shelter. It would take patience, gentleness, and a love deep enough to rebuild what had been broken. Scene 4. The nightmare isn't over. For the first few days, Daniel kept the house quiet. No sudden movements, no loud noises. He left every door open, every room accessible. The puppy, still just Buddy, was free to explore, though he rarely strayed far. He moved like a shadow, always a few feet behind Daniel, his steps cautious, his body coiled tight with invisible memories. Every little thing was a trigger. A door closing too fast made him flinch. A shadow crossing the wall made him freeze. One morning, when a neighbor knocked too hard on the front door, Buddy bolted under the kitchen table, trembling, eyes wide with panic. Daniel crouched low beside him, hand outstretched. "I'm here, Buddy. You're safe now." The shaking stopped, but the fear stayed. On the 4th day, Daniel thought they were ready for a small step forward, a walk in the pasture behind the house. The sun was out, the air crisp. Daniel gently clipped a soft collar around Buddy's neck and attached a long leash. The puppy hesitated but didn't resist. He even sat, waiting. "You're doing great," Daniel whispered, pride softening his voice. As they stepped outside, Buddy squinted at the sunlight, the breeze, the smells, the distant calls of birds. It was overwhelming, but he followed. Step by step, he moved beside Daniel into the field. And then it happened. A motorcycle roared past on a nearby road, sharp, violent, deafening. In an instant, the puppy dropped flat to the ground, tail tucked, ears pinned, eyes wide with terror. He thrashed against the leash, trying to flee, spinning in circles, lost in panic. "Buddy, hey, I've got you," Daniel called, voice calm but firm. But Buddy was gone, mentally back in that shed, in the darkness where noise meant danger and no one ever came. Daniel let go of the leash, not to abandon him, but to give him space. Buddy bolted back toward the house, scratching desperately at the door. Daniel followed, opened it, and watched him run to the farthest corner under the dining table, curled up, shaking. This wasn't just fear, it was trauma. And Daniel realized then, saving a dog's body was one thing, healing his soul would be another journey entirely. Scene 5. The painful truth. It was a quiet Thursday afternoon, 5 days after the rescue. Daniel had just returned from town, arms full of supplies, calming treats, gentle shampoo, a new squeaky toy. The house smelled of chicken broth and cut grass. For the first time in a long while, things felt calm. Then came the knock. 3 sharp raps at the door. Instantly, Buddy tensed. His head jerked up, his body froze. Then, without a sound, he darted behind the couch, eyes wide with fear. Daniel opened the door to find a young woman in jeans and a sweatshirt, a clipboard in hand, and a badge around her neck that read, Animal Welfare Services, Shelby County. "Are you Daniel Carter?" she asked, voice tentative. "I am," he replied. Is something wrong?" "Not exactly," she said, stepping inside. "You reported a neglected German Shepherd puppy. I'm following up." The moment she saw Buddy peeking out, her entire demeanor softened. She didn't approach, just knelt nearby and whispered, "Poor guy." Daniel explained what little he knew, the shed, the silence, the bones beneath fur. The woman, Officer Kelly, opened a file on the kitchen counter. Inside were photographs of the same shed, along with others, dogs, thin, sickly, forgotten. "He wasn't the only one," she said quietly. "The family was breeding for cash. His mother was sold early. 3 of the puppies died in the first month. He was the only one left." Daniel clenched his jaw. Then Kelly hesitated. "There's more." He was briefly placed in foster care but returned after biting someone. They brought him back to the breeder. Daniel's heart sank. He wasn't being aggressive, he was scared. "I know," Kelly said softly, "but the case is still open, and I need to warn you. The original owners might try to reclaim him." Daniel's voice dropped, low and steady. "They're not getting him back." And in the corner of the room, Buddy watched, silent, trembling, but no longer alone. Scene 6. The legal battle begins. The next morning, a dusty blue sedan pulled into the gravel driveway. Daniel was on the porch, coffee in hand, when the car door opened and a man stepped out, mid-40s, sunburned skin, flannel shirt, boots still caked with dried mud. A younger woman followed, arms crossed tightly, jaw set in a firm scowl. Daniel didn't recognize them. But Buddy did. From inside the house, a low, guttural growl echoed through the screen door. Shadow, no longer just Buddy, flattened his ears, body low, eyes locked on the strangers as if ghosts from a nightmare had returned. The man stepped forward. "We're here for the dog." Daniel's posture shifted. "You lost?" "I'm Rick Snyder," the man said, pulling a folded document from his back pocket. "That dog, Shadow, or whatever you're calling him, he's mine." "No," Daniel said firmly, he's not." Rick's tone sharpened. "I've got paperwork, from the breeder, from the shelter." The woman beside him added coldly, "You don't get to keep something that doesn't belong to you." Daniel's voice stayed calm, but his fists clenched. "He's not a thing. He's a living being. One you locked in a shed to rot." Rick shrugged. "We didn't abuse him. Breeding's tough. We were figuring it out." "That's not breeding. That's abandonment." Tension crackled in the air. "You can do this the easy way or the legal way," Rick warned. "But we've got a lawyer." Inside, Shadow barked, loud, fierce. But beneath the noise, Daniel heard it clearly. Panic. Later that day, Daniel called Kelly. "They're trying to reclaim him," he said, voice tight. Kelly arrived by afternoon with documents in hand. "They've filed for temporary custody. The court's reviewing it." Daniel paced the living room. "They don't care about him. They just want control." Kelly nodded. "Unless we prove Shadow's in danger with them, they have legal ground." "Then I'll file for emergency foster guardianship," Daniel said, eyes burning with resolve. "I'll get the proof, whatever it takes." The battle had begun, but Daniel wasn't backing down, not now, not ever. Scene 7. The courtroom of truth. The courtroom was quiet, the kind of silence that doesn't soothe but holds its breath. Daniel sat in the front row, hands clasped tightly in his lap, boots still dusty from the barn that morning. He hadn't slept well. Shadow was home, watched by a trusted neighbor. Daniel had wanted to bring him, but Kelly advised against it. Too many people, too much noise, too much risk. Across the room sat Rick and his wife, calm, dressed up, rehearsed. Their lawyer spoke first, presenting paperwork, breeder records, shelter intake forms, claims of ownership. He painted Rick as a misunderstood dog lover who had made an unfortunate but non-malicious mistake. Daniel clenched his jaw with every word. Then it was his turn. He stood slowly, a plain folder in hand. No legal team, no dramatic gestures, just truth. "I'm not here to speak for myself," he began, voice steady. "I'm here to speak for a dog who can't speak for himself." He handed the judge photos, the dark shed, the filth, Shadow's ribs pressing through his fur. He gave her the vet's evaluation, malnutrition, trauma, delayed development. Then he told the story, the silence, the fear, the moment Shadow blinked in the light for the first time, trembling, but trying. "He wasn't just neglected," Daniel said softly. "He was forgotten." The judge listened, flipping through the evidence. Then she looked at Rick. "You had your chance," she said firmly, "and you failed him. When he needed you most." The gavel came down. "Temporary custody remains with Mr. Carter. A permanent adoption hearing will be scheduled in 60 days. Until then, all contact is prohibited." Daniel exhaled for the first time in minutes. It wasn't over yet, not officially, but for now, Shadow was safe. That night, Daniel walked through the door. Shadow barreled into him, not out of fear, but joy. And as Daniel dropped to his knees and wrapped his arms around the dog who had once cowered from light, he whispered, "We did it, buddy." Shadow didn't flinch. He simply stayed. Scene 8. A name, a home, and the life he deserved. 60 days. That's how long it took for everything to become official. 60 days of paperwork, home visits, vet check-ins, and quiet, steady progress. Daniel didn't mind. Every sunrise was a gift. Every small step forward reminded him just how far Shadow had come. By now, Shadow had a routine. He woke early, padding softly into the kitchen to wait beside Daniel as coffee brewed. Then came their morning walk, across golden fields beneath skies wide and clear. Shadow no longer flinched at closing doors. He no longer hid from the sun, and most of all, he wagged his tail, freely, often. There were moments Daniel never expected to matter so much. The first time Shadow barked playfully at a squirrel. The first time he rolled onto his back, paws in the air, asking for belly rubs. The first time he stood guard at the gate, not out of fear, but loyalty. And one night, when a thunderstorm rolled over the valley, Shadow didn't bolt. He didn't tremble. He simply lay beside Daniel on the porch, ears perked, but calm, eyes steady. He had learned the light wasn't going to turn off again. The final adoption hearing was brief, a quiet judge, a gentle smile, and then the words Daniel had longed to hear. "Shadow Carter, legally and permanently yours. No more threats, no more courtrooms. Just a man and his dog, family." On the way home, Daniel stopped at the local pet store. He bought a new leather collar, sturdy and simple, engraved with 2 lines. "Shadow, you are safe now." That night, as he slipped the collar around Shadow's neck, Daniel knelt and whispered, "You're not in the dark anymore, and I promise you never will be again." Shadow leaned in gently, resting his head on Daniel's shoulder. No fear, no flinch, just trust. Scene 9. An ending and a beginning. Shadow didn't just survive, he found something many never do, a second chance. Life on the farm settled into a quiet rhythm. Mỗi sáng, Shadow đều đợi Daniel bên cửa bếp, đuôi khẽ vậy, ánh mắt tràn đầy tin cậy. Họ đi dạo qua những cánh đồng rực nắng, nơi Shadow giờ đây chạy nhảy tự do, đôi lúc quay đầu lại chỉ để chắc chắn Daniel vẫn ở gần. Cậu không còn nép mình trước tiếng sấm, không còn cô rúm khi ánh sáng đột ngột tràn vào phòng. Cậu ngủ sâu, đôi khi thở khò khè vì mơ, đầu đất lên chân Daniel, như thể cuối cùng trái tim cũng đã yên. Có những cái khoảnh khắc nhỏ bé mà Daniel sẽ không bao giờ quên. Lần đầu Shadow chủ động chơi đùa với món đồ chơi phát ra tiếng kêu. Lần đầu cậu nằm lăn ra đất, bụng đưa lên trời cho được xoa. và lần đầu tiên cậu sửa không phải vì sợ mà vì vui. Shadow đã học được điều mà mỗi sinh vật đều khao khát, tình yêu không điều kiện. Một mái nhà không chỉ là 4 bức tường, mà là nơi có người luôn ở đó, luôn cho, luôn yêu thương. Nhưng Daniel biết, ngoài kia vẫn còn vô số những chú chó như Shadow, bị lãng quên, bị tổn thương, và vẫn đang chờ ai đó rạng tay. Some dogs are born into love. Others have to survive long enough to find it. If Shadow's journey touched your heart, remember this. There are thousands of dogs out there just like him, still waiting in the dark, still waiting to be seen. Subscribe to our channel for more powerful rescue stories. Like this video if you believe every dog deserves a second chance. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded of what love can do. And if you're thinking of bringing a pet into your life, please adopt. Be the light that breaks someone else's darkness. Because sometimes all it takes to change a life is a door left open.